Hey, this is Jim from Healthy Builds. If you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should listen to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my friend, Scott Ferguson.
Hey, Time to Shine Today, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson, and we are, I recorded this podcast with my friend James Sweeney back in March 17th, and we were just starting to roll into a lockdown of our pandemic here with the COVID virus. And Jim shares some solid knowledge nuggets about how the body works with bacteria and how his product can help kill 99.9% of the bacteria that's going on out there, how we need to be a lot more concerned with air quality around here because a lot of the diseases, they start there. So Jim is with a company called Home Builds, and he's out of Jupiter, Florida, kind of a neighbor here of mine. And he's going to drop some serious knowledge nuggets on you, especially kind of this time of uncertainty. And hopefully we're kind of moving out of this COVID situation, but he's going to educate you. And I encourage you to listen to the whole interview, sit back, relax, take some notes, because here is my friend, James Sweeney. Hey, Time to Shine Squad. It's Scott Ferguson here, and I am super privileged to be able to have a conversation that's going to really blow your mind, especially with all this COVID/coronavirus that's going around and kind of haunting our days as we live to be a little bit more educated about what is going on in our environment, in our world. I'm having Jim Sweeney on from Healthy Builds. He is a partner of mine in a group called the Veterans Professional Network here in South Florida. And it's never a better time to bring on Jim. He is a retired military officer with significant deployments overseas, even in Africa. After retiring, he started working with a series of products. They turned into a unique program, and it keeps homes and offices biologically clean. He's an experienced owner with demonstrated history working in the international trade and developed industry, skilled in crisis management, intelligence analysis, operations management, analytical skills, and a government master's degree in international relations and a business degree from the University of Nebraska. Wow, that is some serious credentials. And Jim, welcome to the Time to Shine Today squad. And if you could introduce yourself and first tell us your favorite color and why.
My name's Jim Sweeney. I think that intro is pretty special, but that and $3 to get you a cup of coffee.
Okay.
I'm going to say blue's my favorite color.
Why is that?
I don't know. My mom's.
Okay. And we live here in South Florida, which, full disclosure, peeps, we're kind of neighbors here in South Florida, me and Jim. So we got that ocean. It's kind of keeps us centered, which is fantastic. But Jim, give me a little bit of origin of your story. Let's talk a little bit about, how you got to where you're at there with Healthy Builds right now.
While working in Africa, I knew that was going to be some of my last work in the military. So I turned around and started looking at products that you could take back into Africa that were economical and that would make a difference. So as I came back, I started that process, and some of the products that I ran into are tied to our Healthy Builds. Some of them aren't. But the first one that I ran into was this molecule that basically you can attach to a surface, and it keeps that surface germ-free. That was, I saw as a real edge in Africa, because when you go to a hospital in Africa, your whole family has to show up. They sit outside in the dirt and cook your food. They have to bring you water. It's a completely different experience than anything in the U.S. And the smallest things can make a difference. So the ability to go in and fog out a hospital and make those surfaces germ-free, and it's persistent cleaning. It's not like a disinfectant. It's also not like a poison, so there's no off-gassing, none of this. I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
As I learned about it, I did. So my thought process was it was a great way to extend the brand to the United States with a U.S. product. Since then, I've gotten much more into it, and we've taken it to another level.
So what was the aha moment that said, okay, this is what I want to do, is serve people, keep them safe, keep them clean, especially in this, literally right now in this day and age, where right now as we record this, it's St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, and there's quarantining going on, and there's curfews and everything else. It's just crazy. But what was that aha moment that got you to say, all right, I want to make a difference with a product?
After I retired, I started up in business, and my partners were more interested in money than I was. And I was really much more interested in making a difference. And they made the decision to do roads because there was a lot of money in road construction. And I made the decision to split off and work hospital hygiene, just general hygiene, because I saw it as a lifesaver or a life extender. And I thought that was something I could, wrap the last bits of my life around.
So you had this product in Africa first?
So when I was in Africa, I got to experience it. And when I came back and retired in the U.S., I started looking at U.S.-based technologies that could help Africa. This was one of the very first ones I found.
Okay, and was there any obstacles of did you develop in Africa and bring it here, or you had the ideas in Africa and brought them to the United States and developed it in the States?
So while in Africa, I worked as an attaché, and I saw what the different levels of poverty were, where the successes were, how things really worked. And then came back to the States to look for stuff that would work. I'll give you a good example. They have a trade show in DC every year that I go to, and they bring out all these products that they think are great for Africa. Well, I normally walk through there and I might find one that really is. So in Africa, a guy comes out and he buys a bottle of aspirin, but you come up and buy one aspirin at a time, and he basically puts it in your hand and you pay him for an aspirin, and that's his business. So you have to retool your thinking. They got all these companies with reverse osmosis. One of the things that we're going to do shortly is our molecule just got direct food contact. So there's a way to take sand and rocks and build a water filter. So what you do is the very bottom, you get a big, say, 55-gallon drum, and at the bottom of it, you've got bigger rocks, and then you get finer sand, mid-grade sand, and then it goes to real fine sand on the top. You pour water in it, and you put a pipe at the bottom so the pressure pushes it out. You run that for 2 weeks. It grows a biofilm on the top, which will get parasites.
So it catches it like a filter in a sense?
Yes, it's absolutely a filter. It's an old school.
I was going to say, that sounds like something you might have did when we were kids, like maybe in the Scouts or something that we did, where we'd filter water almost in a sense to make it drinkable.
It gets it about at 90%. So when we put our molecule on it, it's right at that 99.99%. But that's the kind of technology that works. And part of it is you got to build it into a business, something they recognize. I found that when I did projects over there, I had buy-in. I didn't just give things away, because people don't respect something they didn't work for. When you work for it, you respect it.
All right. So tell us about your operation at Home Builds. Who's there? Who works with you? Who do you strategically align with?
We work with, our company is a small company. We got about 4 people in it locally, this one. We picked up some former teachers, educators. My partner used to make the molecule. That's how I met him. He sold the company, and now we're just in application. And
what do you mean by just an application?
Well, we're no longer manufacturing the molecule directly. He sold it.
Okay.
So right now what we're doing is we're over the next 2 weeks, I've got appointments at 3 hospitals and a major gym in up in Georgia.
Okay.
Today I leave for New Rochelle. We're going to go up there and help the school district that got hit with the COVID.
Okay.
So we've already got product moving in there. We're going up to, they're bringing people in, and we're going to educate on how to use all the stuff. And from there, we're going up to Wisconsin to help. We're meeting with Mayo, people from the Mayo, from a series of government locations. And we're going to talk about how to clean the air. It's an airborne virus, how to treat these surfaces, how to maintain your hands. So you hear them on TV now telling you, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands.
Sure.
When we put it on our hands, we've got data that shows one application will keep hands clean for 24 hours.
Wow. And how much percentage of the germs or whatnot does it actually kill? Because nothing really kills 100%, right? But right. Is there, what percentage do you believe that your application would
log
destroy?
Reduction. If we look at it with the hand sanitizer label for bacteria, it's right around 99.99.
Wow, that's strong, guys. You hear that? So is your product available to the public, or is it mainly to businesses? Like, you're going up to New Rochelle, you're going to help places that are stricken. Like, can people access your product?
Well, we don't have it right now out for sale anywhere.
Okay.
Got one company that we're selling to that they've got a private label with us, and I think they're trying to take it into various drugstores.
Okay.
But what we're doing with it right now is we build it into our home package. We come in and treat the home. They get hand sanitizer. We can actually treat your clothing through a laundry additive.
Wow.
When I took the troop, when I tested this 10 years ago, I took a Boy Scout troop out to scout camp, and I treated my uniform.
Okay.
And at the end of I wore it every day. I sweat through it about 2-3 times a day. And when I came back, the clothing never got washed, but it didn't stink.
Really?
Wow. You can have your gym clothes for it. If you're really oily, it'll cover up the molecule after about a week or two. It'll
sure.
stink. But the odor is from bacteria. It's not from sweat.
Okay.
So
and
we remove that bacteria.
So it's obviously you wouldn't be able to put this out to the companies or even the public, but it's all 100% safe for skin touch?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you turn around and look at, we're an approved inert ingredient for any hand sanitizer with an FDA label. So gotcha. They've already blessed it. Our technology has a direct food contact piece that's granted by the FDA and the EPA, which is pretty unusual.
Okay.
We have the mildest possible label in the market.
Right.
So we got a 40-year history and
okay.
no issues.
Wow. So is there any, it's the easiest way to say this, is there any bureaucratic pushback on any of your products? Like, is there any people out there that are like, no, so now we're in a pandemic or whatever that word is, where people are like, yes, bring whatever is going to help. But, is there any pushback when we're in milder times, if you will?
I think there is, because there's always that, we've gone into hospitals before and they'll ask you to test on a specific bug, and then they want to test on a variant of the bug. So if I'm testing if I test one,
right,
it runs me a couple $1,000, and then you do it, and they'll sit there and have you test an arsenal and they'll never buy it.
Really? And it costs you a G.
Yeah.
Right?
There you go.
Fat gorilla for them to say no. That's crazy.
If you don't make a decision, you never get fired. I don't know. I think big bureaucracies turning the ship takes a while, but
sure.
Your average human is the old Pigpen commercial. We're shedding somewhere between 40 and 45 million bacteria and fungus an hour. So you kind
wow.
of do that.
Wow.
So when you clean with a disinfectant, it only works when it's wet. And if you use it right, you're normally wetting the surface for 10 minutes. So if you disinfected once a day, the other 23 hours and 50 minutes, all those surfaces are loading with biology. When you go to a hotel room, within about 6 hours, your shedding of your biology will overcome whoever's biology was in there.
Right. Okay.
So it's most people don't see we don't see ourselves as a pig pen, but when we come into a house and we turn on a laser particle counter for the client to look at it, and they see particle counts at 400, 500,000 particles per cubic foot,
right?
They tend to go. But there's all kinds of yuck in the air.
Yeah, and there's yuck in it. It's just so crazy, the chemistry and what happens with, just like you said, like when you go into a hotel room, it's like your body kind of starts taking over what was there before. But also, like what's really weird, and I'm not digressing too much here, but I'm just trying to explain how things kind of work. Like you have a married couple that stays married for 20, 30, 40 years. They almost start to look like each other, because of the chemical reaction between the two. That is, like, they're always, on each other, for a lack of a better term. They're around each other. So that what you're saying, it just makes, perfect sense on how your product can work to destroy what doesn't need to be there. So what is your take, without getting political or anything, on our situation right now with the COVID-19 or the coronavirus? Like, what's your take on it right now?
We've got a partner, Dr. Gideon Wolfart, who's the head of biofilms research up at Ryerson University. And Gideon has always told us that sometime in our lifetime, there is going to be a major event that will be similar to like that 1918. I don't think that's what this is. I think they've approached it right. They shut things down as soon as it happened. I think China did the China thing where they don't tell everybody, because there was a PLOS article that came out in January, and it was talking about this novel coronavirus infection. Well, to get through PLOS, it's a high-end science piece. To get through that, that didn't just happen that week. And they reported for the first time on the last day of December. So when you go back into that, that's way back in October and November. Yeah. And they knew about it.
I hear there's journalists missing and stuff that wanted to put it out back then. Again, I don't want to digress into any of the stories. And it's just funny about the whole toilet paper thing, with it being a respiratory, infection. But then I was talking to a hedge fund manager, a friend of mine from Detroit, about that. He's like, Scott, we're pointing our finger so much at China, and maybe rightfully so, but they do like 90% of the packaging for toilet paper. So we're getting, I guess that's it. I think that maybe people are buying it really for that, maybe why, because it's funny, we make the toilet paper here or Canada or somewhere, and they ship it to get packaged by Charmin and Northern, and they ship it back. So he's like, Scott, that might be what it is. We're pointing at it so much they could just say, F you, we're not going to ship your stuff, and then we'd be really using our hands for everything.
They've had threats. They just came out with threats in terms of not providing antibiotics and needs. They haven't
heard that. Yeah,
done it, but they had one of their government officials come up publicly and say that. So you never know what's going to happen. I'm certain that what's going to occur from this is, one of the guys on our team is a pharmacist, and he's been squawking about this in my ear for years, is that we're too dependent on China. And right now, I think there's like 100+ drugs that are in shortage in the U.S.
Wow.
Because they're made over there.
Yep. Wow. Hopefully we'll start picking up the game and start making some stuff here, but that's for another conversation. So what is your definition of a life well lived, Jim?
I think if you can turn around and look in the mirror and see on the other side when you greet your maker and your parents, and they give you a thumbs up.
That's it, huh?
That's it.
You're serving so many people with what you do, and it's just amazing. You're doing it so quietly. You're kicking ass, but you're still doing things so quietly. Jim, what would the Jim of now go back and tell, if you can go back in time or write a letter to the younger Jim, say the 25-year-old Jim, what would you tell him? You've experienced a lot. We haven't even, we're leaving a lot of the military stuff off the table, but I mean, you're an officer in the Army, and you've seen some stuff like myself. So, but what would you go back and tell the 25-year-old Jim? With your experience now?
I think I would go back and say, you've got 2 ears. Listen more than you talk.
That is did you hear that, squad? Listen more. I always say, what would we say? I even said it in a podcast, 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. That's what not my mom, but a friend of mine's mom used to tell him that. I don't give my mom credit for that, even though she did have some great sayings. So, Jim, let's leave our cell phone out of the equation. What are 3 things? It could be a people, place, or thing, a noun. 3 nouns that you cannot live without.
A pool. Nebraska football.
Husker, okay.
A good steak dinner.
Oh, I mean, we have to definitely hang out now. Awesome. So, with your profession, you're answering a lot of questions, obviously. But is there one question that you wish somebody would ask, but they never do?
Absolutely. And I think that question it relates to the air. And we are at a point where, I don't know if you recall the Ebola virus, where you've got folks out there in PEPFAR and they're telling you it's not airborne. But if you read the studies coming back after that, 2 years after it,
right,
they showed that both the Western version and the Zaire version of Ebola stay viable in the air for 90 minutes.
Oh, wow.
In the air for 90. All particles 0.3 micron in size and below can stay suspended in the air almost indefinitely because they're under Brownian motion. They don't have enough mass to really have gravity affect them. So the government really hasn't taken note of that, and they always try to tamp it down. But how many people sit on a plane and there's a guy 8 rows back gagging, and you're going, oh no, I'm about to get sick.
Yeah.
We all intuitively know it,
right?
But they think that the population is going to panic, go run their head into a wall, and I don't know what.
So you're thinking that you wish more people really asked you about air quality?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's fair enough. Jim, we're going to move into our leveling up lightning round, okay? There's 4 or 5 questions I'm going to ask. You and I could talk for 15, 20 minutes on each one of them, but we're going to limit you to 7 seconds max. No more. All right, brother?
You got it.
You ready? All right. What is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
PT.
Love it.
Exercise.
There you go. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
I exercise almost every day.
Beautiful. Yeah, you're pretty well put together. I get to see Jim, once a month minimum, and he's pretty well put together. Recommend a good book that you like to go to if you're just, let's say, a motivational book, or one that you really enjoyed that you like to go back to.
I think I'd probably go back to that Hobbit series. I've read it to my kids so many times, and I like the story. We watched the movies, we've read the books together.
That's awesome. There's actually really good lessons in the Hobbit. That's awesome. Okay, what's your favorite charity or organization that you support?
Soft Warrior Foundation.
Love it. And last question: the best decade of music, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Oh, I'm going to have to go with the 90s.
Okay. Wow. All right. Very cool. So tell us where we can find you, Jim. I'm going to have all this in the show notes, by the way, squad. So make sure you go down there and get educated.
We're at Healthy Builds 2.com. And
is that TOO?
No, the number 2.
Okay.
Healthy Builds, all one word, 2.com.
Okay.
And we can help with asthma, allergies, pregnancy, diabetes. If you're worried about COVID, we can help with that. But we can make we're that intersection of environment and health. And we can do it in your home, your office, and we can make you safer and your family safer.
And who is your perfect referral?
You know, the thing is it impacts everybody. What
Sure.
we found is when we go in and do one, they refer us 2, 3, 4 times.
Gotcha.
We almost don't have to
Love it.
advertise.
Gotcha. Okay, squad, I just want to, I have a whole sheet of notes here, speaking with my good friend Jim, and we always are wanting to say here at Time to Shine today that we want to surround ourselves with people that stay humble, yet stay hungry. They're always top vibing. They level up their health. They level up their wealth. And Jim, you're the epitome of that, my friend. And you're part of our squad now, and we appreciate you coming on and spilling some solid knowledge nuggets about keeping us healthy, okay?
You're welcome.
Awesome. Take care now. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast, proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.